Let's cut through the noise. Most people are waiting for the right time, the perfect opportunity, some magical moment where everything just clicks. But let me tell you something, that moment, it's not coming. No one is going to hand you a new life. No one is going to save you. And if you don't learn the lessons life keeps throwing at you, you'll stay stuck, running in circles, wasting years on things that don't serve you. It's a trap, a dangerous one. We tell ourselves, one day, things will get better. One day, I'll have the courage. But one day turns into years, and before you know it, you're looking back, wondering where the time went, wondering why you didn't act sooner, wondering why you kept making the same mistakes. But here's the truth. If you don't wake up now, if you don't start seeing life for what it really is, you'll keep repeating the same cycles. You'll keep waiting for something that doesn't exist. So today, we're breaking the illusion. We're talking about the lessons no one taught you, but that shape everything, your success, your happiness, your peace. Lessons that once learned will change the way you see yourself, your time, and the people around you. And I won't sugarcoat it. Some of these truths might sting. Some might challenge everything you believe. But that's the point. Growth isn't comfortable, but staying blind to reality, that's a far greater pain. So let's get into it. Protect yourself. Guard your peace. Step back from what's holding you down. And most importantly, take back control of your life. Number 1. What if hard work isn't enough? The brutal truth. No one tells you. We've all heard it. Work hard and you'll be successful. Sounds great in theory. Just put in the effort and the rewards will come. But what if I told you that's not always true? What if I told you that you could work yourself to exhaustion and still end up empty-handed, while someone else, who barely tries, gets everything handed to them? I learned this the hard way. A few years back, I was stuck in a soul-crushing job, convinced that if I just worked harder, my moment would come. I said yes to everything, extra projects, late nights, impossible deadlines. I told myself, if I show them how dedicated I am, they'll reward me. Guess what happened? Nothing. No promotion, no recognition, not even a simple thank you. Meanwhile, another guy, let's call him Chad, because of course his name was Chad, barely lifted a finger. But Chad played golf with the boss. Chad knew how to schmooze. Chad climbed the ladder while I burned myself out. That's when it hit me. Hard work, on its own, isn't the golden ticket we were sold. The world doesn't operate on effort alone. Success isn't a vending machine where you insert hard work and out pops a reward. Sometimes the game is rigged. Sometimes it's about timing, connections, or plain dumb luck. Now, before you throw your hands up in frustration, here's the part that matters. Hard work isn't useless. It's just not enough by itself. It's like planting seeds. You can water them every day, give them sunlight, and do everything right. But if you're planting in bad soil, nothing's going to grow. Effort matters, but where you put that effort matters even more. I had to ask myself, am I pouring my energy into something that will actually pay off? Am I working toward my own goals? Or am I just making someone else rich? That realization changed everything. I stopped waiting for validation from a company that didn't value me. I took that same work ethic and poured it into something that mattered, my own projects, my own path. And suddenly, things started to shift. The effort that got me nowhere in my old job, it built something meaningful when I put it toward the right things. But here's the even deeper truth. Sometimes, even when you do everything right, hard work still doesn't pay off. And that's okay, because effort isn't just about the end result. It's about what it teaches you along the way. Every late night, every failure, every setback, it sharpens you. It builds resilience, grit, and the ability to pivot when things don't go as planned. So if you're working hard and not seeing results, ask yourself, am I playing the right game? Am I putting effort into the right soil? Because hard work is only valuable if it's directed at the right things. And if you're stuck pouring your energy into something that isn't growing, maybe it's time to step back, to reassess, to reclaim your time and effort. And as for Chad, let him play golf. You've got bigger things to build. Number 2. Are you trading your life away? The truth about time that no one tells you. If I told you someone was robbing you blind, stealing from you every single day, you'd probably be outraged. You'd demand justice. You'd fight to get back what's yours. But here's the kicker. This thief isn't a person. It's time. And the worst part? Most of us are handing it away freely without even realizing it. We've all heard the saying, time is money. But let's be real, that's a lie. Time is far more valuable than money. You can lose money and make it back. You can go broke and rebuild. But time, once it's gone, it's gone. And yet, we waste it like it's endless, tossing it away on things that don't fulfill us, don't serve us, don't bring us any closer to the life we actually want. I learned this the hard way. A few years ago, I spent 2 years stuck in a job I absolutely hated. Why? Because it was safe. It paid the bills. It looked good on my resume. So every day, I sat in a cubicle, mindlessly pushing numbers around on a spreadsheet, watching the clock, feeling my soul shrink with every passing hour. I kept telling myself, just tough it out a little longer. It's responsible. It's what adults do. But one day, it hit me. I was trading my time, my life, for a paycheck that didn't even make me happy. And here's the real punch in the gut. I thought I was being smart. But I wasn't being smart. I was being scared. Scared to take a risk. Scared to fail. Scared to chase my dreams, because what if I wasted time? But in trying to avoid wasting time, I wasted years. Let's get brutally honest for a second. Look at how you spend your time. Really look. How many hours have you given away to things that don't matter? How many nights have you spent doom-scrolling social media, watching other people live their lives instead of living your own? And before you say, but I don't have time to work on my goals, let me ask you this. How much time did you spend last week binge-watching Netflix or stalking your ex's Instagram? Exactly. Here's the hard truth. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't serve you, you're saying no to something that does. I once spent months helping a friend plan her wedding, picking flowers, organizing seating charts, stressing over details. And don't get me wrong, I love my friend. But that time, I could have been using it to work on my own goals. I could have been investing in something for me. Instead, I was exhausting myself over a party I wasn't even that excited to attend. And here's the part that most people don't want to hear. If you're spending your time on something that doesn't align with your values, stop. Quit the dead-end job. Walk away from the toxic relationship. Skip the party you don't want to go to. People will call you selfish. Let them, because the people who don't respect your time don't respect you. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from my grandmother before she passed. She told me, at the end of your life, you won't care about the money you made or the things you bought. You'll care about how you spent your time and who you spent it with. That hit me like a freight train, because it's true. We live like we have all the time in the world, we don't. So here's your wake-up call. Your time is your life, and if you're not spending it wisely, you're letting it slip away. Take 5 minutes, just 5. Write down how you spent the last 24 hours. Then ask yourself, was this worth it? Did this bring me closer to the life I want? If the answer is no, it's time to make changes. Because once you understand the true value of time, you stop wasting it. You start guarding it. You start protecting it like the treasure it is. And hey, if you've spent the last few minutes reading this, congratulations. You just made an excellent investment. Now go make the rest of your time count. Number 3. Are you running on empty? The truth about burnout that no one warns you about. Let's talk about something most people ignore. You. More specifically, how much of yourself you're giving away without stopping to refill your own energy. You know that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, it's not just a nice quote to slap on a coffee mug. It's a warning. But here's the problem. We live in a world that rewards exhaustion. Burnout is glorified. Working 80-hour weeks is seen as dedication. Saying, I'm so busy, is a badge of honor. Meanwhile, your body is shutting down, your mind is exhausted, and your emotions are screaming for a break. But instead of listening, you push through, because that's what strong people do, right? Wrong. I learned this lesson the hard way. A couple of years ago, I was that person, the one who said yes to everything. Need extra hands at work? Sure. Last-minute favor from a friend? Of course. Help someone move, plan an event, pick up extra tasks. Absolutely. I thought being the person that always comes through made me valuable. It didn't. It made me exhausted. One morning I was running on fumes. Again. I barely slept. I was living on caffeine, and I was running around trying to keep everyone happy. Then it happened. I passed out in my kitchen, right there, next to the coffee maker, flat on the floor. Coffee grounds spilled everywhere. My body had enough. And honestly, that moment changed everything. Because here's the harsh reality. If you don't take care of yourself, your body will force you to stop. And trust me, when that happens, it won't be convenient. It won't be pretty. It won't be on your terms. And before you roll your eyes and say, I know, self-care is important, let me stop you right there. Because self-care isn't what most people think it is. It's not just bubble baths, yoga, or treating yourself to a fancy coffee. Real self-care is setting boundaries. Real self-care is saying no without guilt. Real self-care is protecting your time, energy, and sanity, because no one else is going to do it for you. And let me be real with you, setting boundaries is hard. People won't like it. Friends might get annoyed. Your boss might raise an eyebrow. Some people will call you selfish. But here's the thing. Anyone who gets mad at you for taking care of yourself wasn't really looking out for you. They were looking out for what you could do for them. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you did something just for you? Not out of obligation. Not because someone needed you, but because you needed yourself. Think of your energy like a bank account. Every task, every favor, every obligation is a withdrawal. If you never make deposits, if you never rest, reset, and recharge, you'll go bankrupt. And once that happens, it's not just you who suffers. You'll be irritable with the people you love. You'll resent the job you once cared about. You'll feel empty even when you're surrounded by people, because you gave away everything you had and you never took the time to refill. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I don't have time for self-care. Oh, really? How much time did you spend scrolling through your phone yesterday? How much time did you waste worrying about things that don't even matter? You do have time, You're just not prioritizing yourself, and that needs to change. So here's your wake-up call. Start protecting yourself. Start guarding your energy. Start saying no to things that drain you and yes to the things that restore you. Take that nap. Skip that party. Leave that unread message on read. Let go of the guilt, because you don't owe everyone access to you 24/7. And if anyone has a problem with it, that's their problem, not yours. Because when you take care of yourself first, you're not just doing yourself a favor. You're making sure you have enough to give to the people and things that actually matter. So go ahead, step back, breathe, reclaim your time, and the next time someone demands more from you than you have to give, just smile and say, "Sorry, not sorry, my cup comes first." Number 4, perfectionism is a trap, and it's keeping you stuck. Let's talk about a silent killer, the thing that keeps your dreams on pause, your projects unfinished, and your potential locked away. You might think it's laziness or a lack of motivation, but it's not. It's perfectionism, and if you're not careful, it will steal years from you. We've all been there. You have an idea, a plan, a goal, and you tell yourself, "I'll start when I'm ready. I just need to tweak this a little more. It's not perfect yet." And so you wait. You refine. You adjust. You tweak. You sit there staring at a project that never seems quite good enough. And in the process, time passes. That's the trap of perfectionism. It disguises itself as ambition, but works like procrastination. It convinces you that you're preparing, but really, you're just stalling. It keeps you polishing things that should have been finished months ago. It makes you believe you're making progress, but in reality, you're just avoiding the risk of putting yourself out there. I used to wear my perfectionism like a badge of honor. I was the person who color-coded their planner, who rewrote emails 10 times before sending them, who would spend an hour picking the right font for a PowerPoint slide. I thought I was being thorough. I thought I had high standards. But in reality, I was just scared. Scared of failing. Scared of being criticized. Scared of realizing that my best effort might not be good enough. One day, a friend called me out. She said, "You do realize no one can see your perfect work if it never leaves your drafts folder, right?" That hit me like a ton of bricks. She was right. I wasn't improving my work. I was hiding behind perfectionism because I was terrified of actually putting it out into the world. So I finally took the leap. I stopped obsessing over tiny details, stopped rewriting the same sentences, stopped waiting for everything to be flawless. And guess what? When I finally hit publish, it wasn't perfect. People pointed out flaws. Some gave feedback. Some even criticized it. But here's the thing, none of that mattered. The world didn't end. And more importantly, I realized that done is better than perfect. Think about it. How many books never get written because the writer keeps scrapping the first draft? How many businesses never get started because the entrepreneur is still waiting for the right time? How many dreams die in people's heads because they were too scared to release something that wasn't perfect? Here's the truth. Perfectionism is a thief. It steals your time, your confidence, and your opportunities. It tells you that if you can't do something perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. And that is the biggest lie of all, because no one, not one single person, ever achieved greatness by waiting for the perfect moment. Perfectionism is an impossible standard. No matter how much effort you put in, there will always be something you could improve. The greatest artists, writers, and entrepreneurs in history didn't wait for perfection. They put their work out there, learned from the mistakes, and kept going. That's how success happens. Not through endless polishing, but through action. Let me put it this way. Imagine you're trying to get in shape, but you refuse to step foot in a gym until you're already fit. Sounds ridiculous, right? That's what perfectionism does to your goals. It keeps you stuck, waiting for a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. When I finally let go of my perfectionist tendencies, my productivity skyrocketed. I started creating, launching, putting myself out there without obsessing over every tiny detail. And you know what? No one cared about the flaws. They cared about the fact that I actually did something. So let me ask you, what's worse? Putting something out there that's a little messy, a little imperfect, or never putting it out there at all? Let me save you some time. Progress beats perfection every single time. Now, I'm not saying you should be careless. Effort still matters. But there's a difference between putting in your best effort and using "it's not perfect yet" as an excuse to avoid taking action. So, here's your challenge. Take that thing you've been overthinking, your side project, your resume, your half-written book, and just do the thing. No more polishing, no more tweaking, no more excuses. Take the risk. Hit publish. Send the email. Launch the idea. Because at the end of the day, no one remembers how perfect something was. They remember that you actually did it. And if anyone criticizes you, just smile and say, "Perfectionism is procrastination, and I don't have time for that." Number 5. What if your parents never had it figured out? The truth you need to hear. Let's rip the illusion apart. Your parents didn't have all the answers. They weren't all-knowing guides with a master plan. They were guessing, they were hoping, they were winging it. And if that realization doesn't shake you, you haven't fully processed it yet. Think back to when you were a kid. Your parents seemed invincible, like they had the rule book to life. They told you to eat your vegetables, finish your homework, be home by curfew, as if they had some ultimate wisdom. But then you grew up, started paying your own bills, dealing with your own problems, and suddenly it hit you. Wait, they were just making it up as they went along. That moment? That's when childhood ends. I remember the exact moment I realized this. I was 24, overwhelmed, and called my mom in full panic mode because I couldn't figure out my life. I expected her to drop some deep, life-changing wisdom. You know what she said? "Oh, honey, we didn't know what we were doing at your age either. We just hoped for the best." I nearly dropped the phone. That's the grand strategy? Hope for the best? That's when I understood. They were just as lost as I was. And now, think about it from their side. Imagine someone handing you a tiny, fragile human and saying, "Congrats, you're responsible for this person's entire existence. Don't mess it up." No guidebook, no instructions. Just instincts, fear, and a whole lot of trial and error. That's parenting. It's not some magical transformation where you suddenly become wise. It's a terrifying, messy, beautiful improvisation. The reality is, your parents were just people, flawed, overwhelmed, dealing with their own struggles and figuring things out one day at a time. Maybe they made mistakes. Maybe they weren't always emotionally available. Maybe they didn't give you everything you needed. But that wasn't because they were trying to mess you up. It was because they were doing the best they could with what they knew. And that's a tough pill to swallow, because it means they weren't superheroes. It means they were just like you, confused, scared, and sometimes making the wrong call. But more importantly, it means this: you can't keep blaming them for everything that went wrong in your life. We grow up thinking our parents were supposed to be perfect, but perfection was never on the table. Maybe your dad worked long hours and never showed much emotion. Maybe your mom was strict or overprotective. Maybe they had their own traumas. their own blind spots. But instead of holding on to resentment, ask yourself, did they try? Did they love you in the only way they knew how? For me, my dad was always serious, always focused on providing. He didn't have deep heart-to-hearts with me. At the time, I thought he didn't care. But as I got older, I realized he showed love by making sure we had everything we needed. That was his way. And my mum? She was always worried she was failing, but to me, she was the safest place in the world. So here's the question. If you're holding on to anger or disappointment because your parents didn't get everything right, what does that anger do for you? Does it help? Does it fix the past? Or is it just keeping you trapped in a cycle of blame? This doesn't mean you have to excuse toxic or abusive behavior. If your parents hurt you in ways that left deep scars, you have every right to set boundaries and heal in your own way. But for a lot of us, our parents weren't villains. They were just people trying to survive, just like we are now. And here's the real kicker. If you don't let go of that anger, you'll repeat the same mistakes, the same cycles, the same patterns, until one day you're the one standing there, realizing you don't have all the answers either. So, if you can, forgive them, not for them, but for yourself. Free yourself from the weight of expecting them to have been perfect, because the moment you stop holding them to impossible standards, you stop holding yourself to them too. Now, take a breath. Call them if you want, or don't. Set the boundaries you need, but whatever you do, let go of the illusion that they had it all figured out. They didn't, and neither do you, and that's okay. Number 6. Waiting for a rescue. No one's coming, and that's your greatest advantage. Let's get this straight. No one is coming to save you. No knight in shining armor. No miracle job offer. No magic moment where everything just falls into place. It's just you. That might sound harsh, maybe even depressing, but trust me, this is the most liberating truth you'll ever hear. We've been conditioned to believe in rescue stories. Fairy tales, movies, even society itself has sold us the fantasy that if we just hold on long enough, something or someone will swoop in and fix everything. The dream job will appear. The right person will walk into our lives. Our circumstances will magically change. But here's the part they never tell you. That's a lie, a dangerous one. Because the more you wait, the more powerless you become. I learned this the hard way. I was stuck in a job that drained the life out of me. Every Sunday night, I felt that familiar dread, that sinking feeling in my stomach, knowing I had to face another miserable week. But instead of taking action, I waited. I told myself that something would happen to change my situation. Maybe my toxic boss would leave. Maybe someone would notice my potential and offer me a dream opportunity. Maybe, just maybe, life would finally work in my favor. Spoiler alert, none of that happened. Nothing changed, because I wasn't changing. And that's when it hit me. No one was coming to rescue me. Not my boss, not my friends, not my family, not the universe. If I wanted out, I had to be the one to pull myself up. And that realization was both terrifying and empowering. Here's where most people get stuck. They confuse taking responsibility for their life with doing everything alone. That's not the point. The point is ownership. Owning your choices, your actions, your future. It's about realizing that while support is great, no one can do the work for you. No one can care about your success as much as you do. No one else is as invested in your happiness. That's not selfish. That's reality. Think about it like this. Imagine you're in a sinking boat. You could sit there and scream for help, waiting for someone to notice and throw you a life raft. Or you could grab the bucket sitting next to you and start bailing water out. Which option gives you the highest chance of survival? Exactly. You are your own best shot at getting out. Now, let's be real. This won't be easy. When I finally decided to stop waiting for a rescue, I made the scariest move of my life. I quit my job. No safety net, no backup plan, just me and the belief that I could figure it out. And let me tell you, those first few months, brutal. There were nights where I ate instant noodles for dinner, days where I questioned everything, moments where I wanted to crawl back to my old job just for the illusion of security. But here's the thing, those struggles taught me more than years of waiting ever did. Because when you stop waiting and start acting, even your failures become valuable. Every mistake, every wrong turn, every tough lesson, it all becomes part of your growth. So if you're sitting there, waiting for someone or something to save you, I need you to hear this. They're not coming. And that's not a bad thing, because it means you don't have to wait. It means you have the power, right now, to take control, to stop hoping for a lucky break and start building your own way forward. Yes, ask for help when you need it. Yes, learn from others, but never hand over the responsibility of your life to someone else, because no one else will fight for you the way you can fight for yourself. And if you're scared, good. That means you're awake. That means you're paying attention. But don't let fear keep you frozen. Fear only wins when you stand still. The moment you take a step, no matter how small, you're already ahead of 90% of the people still waiting for their miracle. So here's your wake-up call. Be your own hero. Stop waiting. Start moving. Will it be perfect? Will you fail sometimes? Absolutely. But every failure, every lesson, every win, it will be yours. And when you look back one day, you won't be saying, I wish someone had saved me. You'll be saying, I did this. I saved myself. Now go. Take the first step. Cape or no cape, you've got this. Final thoughts. The truth will set you free if you let it. If you've made it this far, you've faced some hard truths, truths that most people spend their whole lives avoiding. But here's the thing, facing reality isn't meant to break you, it's meant to wake you up. Every lesson we've talked about today isn't here to bring you down, it's here to set you free. Free from the lies that keep you stuck, free from waiting for a rescue that's never coming, free from pouring your time, energy and heart into things that don't serve you. The question now is, what will you do with this? Will you let these truths sit in the back of your mind while life keeps passing you by? Or will you use them? Will you take responsibility, make the hard choices, and start living with intention? Because here's the real lesson. Knowing the truth isn't enough. Acting on it is what changes everything. And now, I want to hear from you. Which one of these life lessons hit you the hardest? Which one do you wish you had learned sooner? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it, because real growth happens when we share, reflect, and learn from each other. And if this resonated with you, if even one thing we talked about today made you see life a little differently, then do yourself and someone else a favor. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the more we wake up to these truths, the more we take control of our lives. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep taking action. You've got this.